Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. I guess we can start with the webinar that Colette sent out. Thank you for sending that, Colette. That was, I think it could be really helpful for us. I hope everybody had a chance to watch it. Did everybody have a chance to watch it?
I was able to listen to part of it, but not the entire bit.
Yeah.
I was on the road traveling, so I did not have a chance to watch it, but I will today.
It allows you to watch it on twice the speed, which I thought was really helpful.
Thanks for the tip. I didn't notice that.
I thought that Michelle Lanier's, I don't know if you saw that part, Katie, but Michelle Lanier's point that oftentimes a rich source of Black history can be found sort of lurking beneath the surface at places most associated with white oppression and aggression, because of the presence of Black people in the area or at that place, which I thought was an interesting idea. Totally makes sense, which made me think about the Daniels house. And although I stand behind our decision, I wish it could be used as a teaching tool. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
When I spoke with the people, many of the people I spoke with, that was the story. The story was, don't go off and look for a place where Black people are known for creating a change or history or architecture. Look for the places where they were enslaved or utilized to create it for white people. And I think that is the message. I mean, that's the message behind much of what we do as an organization should be, how did this happen? How did Raleigh get built? I mean, every university in the North Carolina was built by Black people. Talk about Black history. I mean, we don't have to go look at Shaw. Look at NC State. Because at NC State, there's a wealth of enslaved people who helped create NC State. And they weren't acknowledged or recognized for it, and potentially contributed to it in levels that we're going to have to dig to find. It's not like an honored, recognized architect. It's the people who aren't noticed who make a big difference. And that's what I heard over and over and over again. Yes, we should look at Shaw. We should at St. Augustine, but we should be looking not at the obvious, but at the strikingly monuments of Raleigh that were not recognized to be created by Black people. So I think that's true historically. The people under noticed are often the people who helped create whatever it was that society is now living with. So I think we have to honor the fact that it was thought of and that there were people behind it who made it happen. So I love that part of it. And I will watch it today. I apologize for not having time.
Okay, well, did Caleb just joined? Caleb, did you get a chance to watch that webinar?
I watched about 30 minutes, but that was all I could get.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that most people have watched it and plan to watch it. I think it was pretty helpful. Okay. Tanya or other staff, can you go over what we have for Oak Crest?
Sure. So in the Dropbox folder, we received from the state the National Register nomination for Oak Crest. I believe that our deadline to respond is the beginning of June. It was also sent to the mayor's office for signature as well. But if you were able to review that, if you have any comments, share them now.
Yeah, I can share my screen if need be. I think we know it right now as the Willis Graves house. I'm going to do just a brief reminder because I think some of you are new to the National Register process. One of your roles as a commission is the city is the certified local government, which is the federal designation through the Historic Preservation Act, and it is managed, by the state historic preservation offices. And that certification is what allows us to get a lot of trainings, but also eligible to apply for and receive Historic Preservation Fund grants. For National Register nominations, when they come in through the state, they are funneled to the certified local government. And so what we are looking for to review and comment based on the National Register criteria, whether or not we think it has sufficient integrity, if it has, historical or architectural significance. And of course, the report lays that out, but also to publicize and sort of have a public meeting about the nomination as well. And the main business meeting will serve as that. So I will make sure that, of course, the owner gets notified, and I'll notify the Friends of Oberlin Village, as well as send out a gov delivery so folks know about it. And then your comment and signature will get the chair's or the vice chair's signature. I'm assuming you're going to agree that it meets the criteria. Then that will be taken to the mayor, and in every case thus far, the mayor typically agrees with what the commission says and will also sign off for it, and then we send it back to the state.
I highly recommend that everybody read it because it has a fascinating account of like how they moved it and what they did to it. It's incredibly detailed. So if you have a chance to read it, definitely read it.
So your choice today is to vote as a committee and bring that forward at the May 18th business meeting, or you can choose not to and just have a full vote at the commission. Your typical process is to vote it at this meeting, but there will be a presentation. And before I forget, I wanted to ask you, Ian, if you wanted to be the person doing the presentations for both the landmark and Oak Crest, or if you wanted staff to. You don't have to decide right this second. You can let us know at exec if you want.
Well, I read it and it seemed sound. And I remember when we moved that other house a couple of years ago, right next to it, the Plummer Hall house, I think. And that was quite a process. So it was good to see this one was successfully moved. And I agree, Ian, it's very detailed. Talking about what the house had. For they just didn't bother to move add a new one when they moved it, and it's a very thorough report.
Yeah, I agree with Caleb. I lived over in that area when it was moved and being rehabbed before I was on the commission. I always admired that house, so I'm glad to see that it's getting recognized now.
Ooh, something that two things. One thing that's popped in my mind, and that is we should probably ask Preservation North Carolina if they want to pursue re-landmarking it. Prior to its relocation, it was designated as a Raleigh Historic Landmark, and on its relocation, it, became not. If that were the case, we would simply use the National Register nomination. So that is something we probably should ask. And then the second thing is from a I can't think of the right word, but the fact that Caleb is on this committee and is an archaeologist is good for us. We, as a commission, actually most commissions tend not to have archaeologists on the commission, but when we don't, we are supposed to reach out to one. And yay, I'm glad you're here today. So you'll be added in as, oh, by the way, we also had.
Yeah,
So-
Can I ask,
use me any way that you can.
I wanted to ask, I understand it was moved. Terrific that they've documented the move and that they're honoring the history. But the area that it was moved from, do we do anything over there to acknowledge where it was and what happened and how it existed where it was? Because to me, that's what you were just talking about, Ian. It's the recognition of what's behind the obvious. The house is an obvious monument to history and the African American community, but what happened where it was? Like, what was that community for? Do we require some acknowledgement there? Because anyway, I'm reading about it and I'm looking at, wow, that sounds pretty amazing. And
You want me to answer that?
sure.
Okay. In this particular, so in general, no, because typically when a building is moved, then for whatever reason, we have no regulatory role over it anymore. In this particular case, the lot where it was moved from is only a couple lots down, so it did not move very far. It stayed within the same neighborhood. The property, the now vacant property is still within the Oberlin Village Historic Overlay District, so there will be a review over what goes back. The Friends of Oberlin Village and Preservation North Carolina, I think, are working with the City of Raleigh Public Art Program, I think. Anyway, they are looking at doing some potentially some signage to recognize all of this along the way. The commission has largely not pursued sign opportunities on its own, but in this case, the whole story is getting told.
Yeah, Oberlin Village is interesting, but I wonder if we could make that future recommendations, that when we move something to preserve it, we don't lose whatever we also, like, it's kind of like the Josephus Daniels house, like where we didn't say, hey, you got to say something about the history here. It had to be an education point as well as, I'm just wondering if we can't make that, obviously we don't have control, but we can maybe make a recommendation.
We can always make recommendations. Typically,
Additionally,
when housing,
on HPO Web, the state's parcel mapping service, the original location is documented for a lot of moved structures, usually only if they were study listed or on the National Register, but they do keep the original marker and note that it's been moved. But that's just a digital trace of it. You would have to be looking.
Yeah, I'm not
I guess
sure if, will it, Tanya or Colette, will the house, the Oak Crest house, will it have a plaque at it now, or does it already have a plaque, previous landmark status, or will it get a new plaque because landmark? And if so, would the plaque or sign will be put on it or around it that it was moved from 3 lots down or something, unless it's already been done.
I don't know what happened to the old plaque. That's a very good question. If it gets re-landmark, it will get a new plaque. Our plaques, though, always, they just say the name and the date. There will be no recognition of its move.
I think this situation is unique in that because it is Preservation North Carolina's office, they have been very vocal about telling the story about its move and, documenting the history. So, I think that they are trying very hard to keep that public knowledge. If it were a private homeowner, there might be a different story here, but definitely they are doing their part to help, raise awareness that this is not its original location.
So what's the next step? Do we need to make a vote or?
Yes, please. And in that vote, then you would take to the next business meeting.
Okay, well, I recommend that we move forward with it. Everybody else agree?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay,
Okay, I heard a unanimous vote that Oak Crest is worthy of being listed in the National Register, and you're going to make that recommendation as such to the business committee, at the business meeting.
Anderson Allen House and report. What do we have on that?
Was
So
that
is this,
for us or everyone else?
this is a National Register nomination, just like for Oak Crest, is that correct? Or are we doing something different?
Landmark designation.
Landmark designation, okay. I noticed the format was different. I read it, it seems to have, a lot of detail. I did see it just, for typing error than that. I mean, I didn't see anything wrong with it.
I think we previously decided that it was worthy of designation.
I think this was not as well done as Oak Crest, if that matters, but I don't know that it does.
That's for sure.
Yeah, Oak Crest was quite exhaustive and very professional looking. This seems to have everything, but maybe it looked like it was more of a draft, or maybe they're still going to fill some stuff out.
I think it is a draft, isn't it, Tanya?
No, this is it. This is it.
This is it.
This is the actual historic landmark designation
Okay.
application. I did ask a couple questions of the owner and consultant that we can verify. I asked what the period of significance should be, and that was that it should be from circa 1852 and through about 1970 to cover the big changes made during the Allen's ownership. I had a question about what it should be named. In reading through, it seemed to me that the Jones family made as many changes as some of the others, but that of course would mean it's the Thompson, Jones, Anderson, Allen house, and that's long. So I wanted to bring that to y'all to see if you had any opinions on that. And those were the two questions I had. And I did get, better photographs of the version that's in the Dropbox now. Everything's more easily read.
It does seem like a really long name. Is
It does
that,
seem like a long name, but also I think it's important to recognize everyone, equally who has the same amount of influence on the house as
Yeah.
it exists now. What are the kind of naming alternatives that we've used in the past have we had similar situations or?
We have some 3-name landmarks, the Cameron Maynard Gatling. Typically when the name doesn't include, typically the name will include the first builder and then any families, assuming that it is for architecture and not one specific family, but the name will be the first, whoever built it, and then families that made, substantive changes, throughout the period of significance. This is the first time I've seen it when there are 4 names. On the other hand, there is a building on Fayetteville Street that is the Arkansas, Delaware, Vermont, Connecticut Royster building. So this is not the longest one we've ever had. It'll fit on the plaque. Oh, and the Rogers, Bagley's, Daniel Pegues house has 4 names. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but it'll fit.
I think if it fits, we should go with it.
I agree.
I agree, but I also think we should think about, this is 2021. What if there's going to be 6 or 8? I mean, how do we handle honoring multiple? This probably because you're asking us to look at it. How are we going to handle honoring multiple families who've lived in a place? Just a question. I mean, I think that
in 30 years, perhaps the commission will go back and look at it and reassess, except in cases where a building has moved, or in the case of the Haywood house that we saw last year, where additional information was found and we wanted to add the wife's name to it. I've seen only 2 houses looked at again, 2 properties looked at again that were renamed, that were already landmarks. So, but the whole ability to, we have only been landmarking properties since 1967, I think is the first one. So we've not moved far enough in history to start, to have a real strong decision about what to do as time has gone on. It's a good question. We just haven't encountered it yet.
Well, that's what I was thinking, like maybe we look at the time period, like I had a point at the beginning of this talk, and this was a house designated from this period to this period, things changed over this 50s. Maybe we start with I'm just throwing this out, a different way of thinking about landmarking it. Like if it's focused on a time period, then maybe we encapsulate it on the website, which we're going to refine and obviously reconnect with our website, where you can say by period of time, so people can really get an overall look at history and how do we review history for a period of time. And I'm just suggesting we start thinking in those terms, because I think I've been on the committee for obviously less than most of you, but we're consistently tripping across how do we make things work on an ongoing basis, and it's not always a one-off. So I guess I'm going to keep saying let's think about that process, making things a little bit more unified so that we can look at the history of Raleigh from a perspective of time periods or certain kinds of, and you probably know this better than anyone, Caleb, certain types of archaeological periods. I mean, it would be kind of cool to come to a city, like I'm making notes here about the fact that I didn't know, every time we meet, Tanya, you tell me 5 things that I didn't know about this committee. And I'm writing them down and going, wow, how cool would it be when you put someone on the committee if we handed them, this is what we are, who we are, what we do, how we approach it. I'm like, wow. Because I learned more listening to that web seminar that you virtually sent me to in Washington. Then, and I'm like taking notes going, wow, I didn't know we did that. I didn't know we did that. I didn't know we did that. So
I hear your point.
I didn't know we did. I didn't know that we put 4 names or 10 names. I mean, I don't have an issue with any of the names. I agree with Katie. But maybe there should be 10, maybe there should be no limit. Maybe we should always look at all of the people. I don't know. But why ask this question every time? Because all we keep, you know.
No, I think it's good to ask the question, and we can certainly rethink how we train commissioners. It has evolved over the years, depending on the commission, the leadership on the commission at the time. When I first got here, there was a 3-ring binder. And then within 8-10 years, they're like, no, that we don't want a whole binder. And so now it's down to like a 3-page thing, and you learn things as they come about. So I think that you may want to talk to our potentially going to get elected, probably elected new chair, Gaston Williams, when that happens, to say you want to be on the nominations committee. And then I just want you on all the committees.
I guess because I don't have an archaeological or an architectural background, I keep looking at this saying, how do we utilize all this great talent the most effective way we can for Raleigh? And how can we meet on a regular basis, make these things happen? And yes, I think we're really good at hanging on to multiple topics over multiple issues. I think you all are wonderful at that. But I feel like maybe it doesn't matter. Yes, I will write all this up and talk to Gaston. Thank you, Tanya. No problem.
No, I wasn't suggesting you had to write anything up, but just that if you were on the nominations committee, you would have a voice.
No, I will write it up, and I will not make a 3-page binder. A 3-ring binder. I'm totally in favor of not doing that again. Believe me.
I wanted to add one more. Oh, look at that. Yep. Everybody's got their own way of organizing. It doesn't have to do with naming, but what you were talking about, being able to recognize, like periods of time when things were built. Something that I can't remember if we've mentioned since you've been on the commission or not, but initiative that staff is working on and has been working on. Have we mentioned the Arches project to you? It's an online web, layperson friendly way of tracking and managing and sharing information about historic resources in a particular entity, whether it's a single historic district or a town or a state or however. So we are planning that and hopefully going to get funding to do that. And one of the advantages of this particular mapping program is that you can, once all the data is in there, you can organize things by time period, and you can look up history. And there will be, again, it's going to be phased, but once it's in there, there is the ability to create, fun stories, friendly community awareness type things on a particular era. It also shows a lot of connections. So say you had a building that is designated landmark, and in the history it says it's related to, Jill Guggenheim. Well, if you click on Jill Guggenheim, then you would be connected to, it's like, oh, here are all the other buildings or sites that Jill Guggenheim is related to. And you can sort of, dance your way through history in Raleigh of what we know anyway about Jill Guggenheim. Or you could say, look at it from from 1942 to 1936, what happened in Raleigh then. So I think that we are moving in the right direction on that. I think, though, as all of the questions you ask, I find both exciting and frustrating at the same time, but only because, but it's frustrating in a good way because I don't have real good answers yet. But I think that as we move forward, the less jargony, the less, elitist we can make it, the better. But we're coming at from it like, this is how we know how to do it. And so finding a new way to both be, true and consistent and still be friendly is going to be, it is our newest challenge. And it's going to take people asking the questions for us to make the change, because it is so much easier just to keep chugging along and doing things the same way we have been. So I appreciate it. I just don't like having to say, I don't know all the time.
No, I appreciate your answers. I couldn't ask the questions without the information you're providing, so thank you.
So I guess the next thing is on the, sounds like you will recommend that it be the Thompson, Jones, Anderson, Allen House, and that you are going to vote here shortly on whether or not you think that it has sufficient special significance to warrant it being a historic landmark. Then that would be taken to the commission at the May 18th meeting.
I think that it does have sufficient significance. Everybody else agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
A thumbs up. All right, another unanimous. Oh, I am not muted. Another unanimous vote. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. Plaque locations. Are we deciding where they go? I looked at your pictures, staff. Are those options or? I think you were muted, Tanya.
You are muted.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask if you wanted to do that.
It doesn't matter. So you have been provided photographs of possible locations, and you will be recommending a location to place the plaque. We did hear from one property, and I believe their desired location was the pier shown in the photo, but I cannot, off the top of my head, remember. It was
Hillcrest Cemetery. It was Hillcrest Cemetery.
So they suggested a location, and it just so happens that it's the location that we are recommending to you anyway.
So these are the locations that we have decided on, not the owners.
Correct. So the process is we, you as a commission and we as staff suggest where we think is the most appropriate place, and we take it to the property owner. 90% of the time they agree. If they don't agree, then we look at what their alternative is. And if there's no agreement at all, which is extremely, extremely rare, then we just put it in the right of way in front of the house on a concrete mount. But that is unusual. The Oak Grove Cemetery has asked that we hold off on mounting it at all for the time being. They are looking into getting a new sign for the cemetery entirely, and they would like to incorporate the National Register plaque and landmark plaque into whatever signage that they come up with. And as a landmark, they will need a COA, so we will have the opportunity through that process to comment on its location. The house on Wheeler, no, the McAdams house is the only one that we didn't suggest going on the house because of the stone. I'm not sure how it's adhered, if it's a veneer or what, and which is why I suggested a concrete mount. That will delay it a lot because apparently all the extra, I thought we had 4 to 6 concrete mounts still in storage, and they're not there anymore. So we're going to have some more created. So you can either vote, So what I'm looking for is agreement from what we're looking for is agreement from the committee on the proposed locations to take to the property owners.
Okay, so do we need to make a decision on the properties that have two options? Do we need to make a decision on one or the other?
You can, or you can say you don't care. Either place is fine with you.
I do care on a couple of them. Is there a way that you can share those pictures so we can look at them?
Yeah. Do you have them up, or do I need to go find them, Colette? You're muted.
I do not currently have them up.
Okay, we'll race. We'll see who finds them first. But the answer is yes, we can.
I'm opting out of the race.
Okay, I found him.
And I don't know if it matters or not. I don't recognize most of these houses. There's a couple of them I do recognize from previous conversations. I'm not sure if I missed something or if I was supposed to, or if it even matters, but
All right, my computer's being a little slow now. I did find them. Some of them were designated in 2019. I don't know. It's been a couple years worth. All right, let me hit share. No. Share. Well, that's weird. Is your share button working, Colette? Because I click it and I'm getting the option of new
Yeah,
whiteboard.
actually, you're right.
Share.
I do not have the capability to share.
Tanya, as host, you can go into the event settings in the menu and turn things back on. When I got in, I said,
Jacob is doing an excellent job of scrolling through the photos, though.
There's a grayed out button that says revert to classic screen sharing that I can't click. I guess, can you undo it? Oh, but you're not a host.
if you make me host again, I can fiddle in there.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I do have a share screen option.
All right. Well, I'll just send you I'll put the link to the location in our back chat. All right, just give us a moment. Let Aaron get those pulled up.
so where is this one?
That's the Dell Adams house. Adam Scott,
Okay.
right? On Dale Adams near Dick's.
It's the west edge of Dick Park along Lake Wheeler. Just
I
off Lake Wheeler.
remember talking about this several years ago. I had never seen a picture of it, I don't think. That's really cool. I like it.
Mhm.
And I'm not familiar with this one either.
That's in method.
Okay. I think I remember us, Tanya, talking about this several years ago. It was like one of the, maybe the only intact
Right.
example in method of.
Right. In the context, I think one other was identified.
Yeah, but method had been so altered as a
Mhm.
community. This was about the best that we had, I think.
Mhm.
And
Did you find it, Aaron?
I'm opening it now. They're each individual
Yes.
PDFs, right?
and this one is
That's the Mick Adams house on Wheeler.
on Lake
It's
Wheeler.
not Lake Wheeler, Wheeler. It's a Leaf Valand house.
All right, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's only one option for this one, I guess.
Yeah, because it did not look to me like there would be room to the left of the door.
Uh-huh.
And this was very rudimentary, counting the boards, estimating in order to dimension it under there.
As someone who frequently walks through neighborhoods looking for any kind of plaque, I appreciate it when the stuff that you're supposed to be able to read is readable. But I don't want to, walk through somebody's yard and way up onto their porch and into their personal space to read this thing. So I'd like it if we could have it as close to the street as possible. For this one, obviously, it's not, we don't want to put all of them right by the street, but that's sort of why I have an opinion on these. But I think for that location is fine.
Okay.
Next one.
And they said that they want to put that on the pillar.
They do, and actually, the taller pillar on the right, and I have kept meaning to stop and take a picture, but I've always been in a hurry because I drive by there about once a week. They actually have a plaque that they created that just has the name of the cemetery on it that is mounted on that taller plaque on the right. And Ms. Powell's suggestion was that the landmark plaque just go underneath it on the same pillar. I don't care one way or the other.
I think that sounds good.
I agree.
So not on one of the locations that's shown, but over on the tall pillar on the right of the photograph. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
This one I liked because you could, somebody walking by could read it. So it's probably good that it's not on the front of the house. So go forth. Okay, so that one's not ready yet. Not ready to make a decision on that. Okay. Yeah, this is the one that I'm wondering if maybe we could put closer to the street. You can barely see it, you would be able to barely see it. I don't know. What do we have an option or?
I mean, what is your thought about maybe putting it on that center post?
The center porch post?
Center porch post.
That was my first thought. I think that's a sensible place to put it, be a little more visible.
I don't like that idea.
Or the brick pier. One of the brick piers. That's an alternative.
Is a concrete block out of the question?
But we could do that. It's gonna, in this case, but my concern is a little bit of timing. We are well behind the times in getting this mounted, and they've asked about it. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to get new concrete mounts made. Just getting the contractor to respond to me is not easy. Unless folks know somebody or somebody's that I could reach out to get a bid on making the concrete mounts.
Who's
That would
doing
work
it
too.
for you?
Well, it's not the same person who made them initially. Gosh, I just went blank. Benjamin Hale is who I've reached out to.
Oh, okay. How much was he charging you?
I don't have a quote for the concrete mount yet. That's what I'm waiting for.
Oh, okay.
I've got the installation taken care of, but yeah, the fellow who made them several years ago, and the idea is that I would order 10 sort of quantity wise.
Have you tried contacting a monument company? I mean, I know one that's pretty good, Wake Monument. They might be able to do it for you. I'm not
That's a
sure
good
how
question.
much. I'm
I'll
not sure how
ask.
much they'll charge, but they might charge a lot more than someone, just a contractor. But it's worth
Doesn't hurt to
trying.
ask.
Yeah, sure.
I'll reach out.
I'm sorry, Ian, we were talking about a concrete base for this one. Is that what you're talking about for this house?
That's what I would like to see if possible. Otherwise, it can go on the front of the house next to the door. I don't want to mess up the lines of the front porch with a big square. So my choice would be either the front of the house next to the door or a concrete block.
Like a concrete block with a plaque on it out on the sidewalk or out in front of the house in the yard?
Maybe in front of in the yard next to the sidewalk, but not in the public right away.
Not out there.
Did the owners express a preference for the placement when they followed up about the plaque?
I want to say that I recall that they mentioned something, but Erin was the person who spoke with them, so she would be the,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, with the screen sharing mode is weird. I'm having trouble getting back to mute and unmute settings. We just showed them this mock-up and asked if that would be okay with them and noted that the concrete base in the yard was a secondary option. And they said that this was okay. So we can follow up and see if the concrete base is also okay. But Tanya's right. They have consistently followed up with us. I know we've had at least a couple of emails from them in the last couple of months checking in on when that would happen. So they know that we're meeting to discuss the location, and that we'll get in touch with them as soon as we have a quote from the contractor to move forward. So they're eager.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess we can get rid of that, Erin. Or we have another one.
This
I think
is
that looks good. Valley Henderson House.
Valley Henderson, right?
Yeah.
And the last one, William Curtis. Right here on the front bay.
Yeah, this one's sort of the same as the Rogers house, in my opinion. Like no one's going to be able to read that ever, especially if they put a gate on it on the steps or whatever. Maybe we could put it on the wall. Did that have any preference? Or?
I have not reached out to the owner yet. He's not been in a super hurry on it. I'd have to look and yeah, I mean, I think the wall's certainly a possibility. I think we've done that before. That would be quicker than a ground mount. Do you have a preference?
My preference would be on the wall, but
like to the right of the stairs?
that's what I was imagining, yeah.
agrees, we can take that to him.
Okay,
Okay, I will see if I can figure out how to stop sharing.
guess we can go ahead and move on to the Oakwood update.
Sure.
What-
So about, I believe it was last year at this time, we realized that 2 properties were not included in the draft document that should have been. It was 105 South Bloodworth and 109 South Bloodworth. And so we had hoped to quickly go through the document to double check to make sure that all things were there that needed to be there. And that was delayed due to the transition to virtual everything. But I have finally gone through the document, and in addition to those 2 properties, there are 3 other missing entries. And while going through it, I noticed that the report was not consistent in whether or not vacant addresses were listed. There are a couple that have an entry that just states that they are vacant or in use as a park, while the majority of lots that are in use as a parking lot or paved surface are not included in the document. So in total, there are 5 missing addresses and about 15 missing vacant or parking lot parcels from the document. So in talking with Aaron and Tanya, we would suggest using some of our budget funds to hire a consultant, or possibly rehire the consultant that put together the report to add those missing properties and to make sure that we're consistent in whether or not vacant or parking lot parcels are included. There are a few other small errors that were noted. There's 1 duplicate page. Yeah, there are some things that need to be finished to make the draft complete.
Okay, which addresses were missing? Not including the parking lots or anything, but the
Sure.
houses were missing.
So
The Bloodworth.
308 East Jones, 312 East Jones, and 703 East Lane are the other 3 missing.
703 East Lane, that was a part just added, wasn't it?
It's on the line. It's in the Linden amendment area.
Huh. Is 705 on there?
705 is outside, so it's in the National Register boundary of Oakwood, not in the local boundary of Oakwood.
Gotcha.
And that's where some of the other missing addresses is. They were properties that are in the HOD, but not the National Register.
Are we making a decision to rehire the consultant?
You can give us your opinion, or you can just say, staff, go forth, make this be fixed.
We have not reached out to the consultant yet.
Uh-huh.
So my plan was to either reach out to the consultant and say, hey, this is what we found. Will you fix it? And if they push back on fixing it gratis, which I kind of think they should, but if they do push back on that, ask how much it would be to fix it. And if it's outrageous, then reach out to one of our other local architectural historians who are in the area and just get a quote. It shouldn't cost that much. It's just the time that staff is lacking right now.
Yeah, I would think if they made some
think so.
errors, they would fix it for free, but yeah.
Yeah.
So go forth and fix.
Yeah, it's time we get this done. Thank you.
Cool. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. Well, we can adjourn the meeting then. See everyone next month.
Thanks.
Thank y'all.
And staff, do we have an executive committee meeting tomorrow? I haven't seen anything about it so far. I think you're muted, Tanya.
I am muted. I may not, we do? I thought I sent the invitations out.
I haven't
But I
gotten
will-
one either.
You haven't either? Okay, then I guess I didn't do it. I will do that. I will add that as my task to do as soon as we get done here. Okay, we
Well,
do.
thank
I'll do
you.
that right now. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. See y'all tomorrow.